Welcome back to my below zero no damage run of Mina the Hollower. In the previous video I traveled from Osix all the way to the first generator, then back again. So my next task will be to travel to Nox's Bayou and repair the second one. Let's get started. The first time you go to this section, you'll have a bunch of red crystals to destroy, which you can do by burrowing to direct the lava towards them. Just be careful not to stand in the way. Many of these crystals will be guarding bones, but some of them will also block the way to the next two areas in the game, so break all the crystals you can find. It's also worth noting that when the enemies in here jump, they'll also create a path for the lava when they hit the ground, so it's extra important not to be near them when they land. After all that, I wasn't keen to take on a mini-boss before going to the checkpoint, and I knew it was in the next room, so I'll come back for this one. For any of you that don't already know, you can't jump into the deep water, but you can burrow into it. As long as you land on solid ground when you resurface, you'll be safe. The mini-boss wasn't here when I came back, but it will be when I'm on my return trip after fixing the generator. I'll get to it, don't worry. I know what you're all thinking, but I couldn't remember if any of the underground treasures in here were actually bone stones. The last thing I wanted to do was accidentally pick up a collectible. I can get plenty of bones without taking that risk, and I wouldn't want to replay a section over such a dumb mistake. The fish are one of the most dangerous enemies in the bayou. When their projectiles hit the floor, they'll create fire that radiates outward from that point until it hits the end of the platform. You'll have to jump over the fire as it approaches you. At some points in the level, you'll be standing on grates. In this case, the projectile will destroy that section of the floor, revealing the water under it. The fire won't spawn in this case either, so be wary of the difference and try not to fall into the water when it happens. It's a little bit easier to counter the fish in this section. I try to wait until after they've thrown their projectile and then I just move to the next platform. Problem solved. You may have noticed that I've been banking bone stones with my levels lately. These levels have been relatively cheap compared to attack, and I'll have to pay to repair the train at some point anyway, so it seemed like a good move. Once you raise the water, Nox's beast will be swimming around in it. Watch for its shadow and move out of the way if it disappears beneath you. As long as you stay mobile, it shouldn't be a major problem. This section will lead to the area boss and the generator, but I have something else in mind first. I'm going to open up the way to the Mock Moon boss, and I'll return to the previous checkpoint before I take him on. Doing so will open up the mirror for this area, which I can use to open up the final generator later on. I know I'm leaving some bones around in this room, but I was just trying to get to the boss instead of messing around for too long in here. The Mock Moon has 5 variations of attacks. It can float around aimlessly, leaving the occasional bomb in its wake. These will explode after a brief delay, so just stay out of the telegraphed zone. His movement can be pretty erratic when he does this, so just be careful if you're going in for an attack. It's pretty easy to collide with him. Next, it can fly in a circle around the room, leaving more bombs behind. Stay in the middle and you can attack it as it passes. If you see him shaking, he's going to jump at you. When it hits the floor, bombs will appear all around him, so just burrow and move to the side. If it submerges, it'll resurface and then charge in a straight line towards you until it goes off screen. Then it'll appear underwater again and repeat the charging attack a few times. Whenever you see it coming to the surface, just burrow under the attack. Lastly, it can summon bombs in every row of the room, but they'll go off at different times, so you can just switch rows after the first bombs go off. There are also gaps in the attack that you can move to instead if you aren't comfortable with that timing. When it enrages, the room will get dark, but it doesn't fundamentally change what you have to do. Mina, the candles, the bombs, and the moon will all remain lit, so you just have to be careful not to step into the deep water. This shouldn't be a problem if you remain near the center like I do. If you have to move to the side, just make sure to burrow your way there and you should be fine. Here's the mirror I was after, so I'm going to activate it and then move to the next section in the Bayou. Watch for the two mermen that pincer attack you up here. If you hit the one on the right, it should fall in the water. Then you can focus on the left before it resurfaces. Here we have the other most dangerous enemy in the zone. They'll throw bugs at you and then run whenever you get close, so you probably won't be able to destroy them until you can back them into a corner. Thankfully, you can destroy the projectiles, and they also won't run from long-range weapons like the TNT barrels that are in this section. Getting past them usually just requires patience. Wait for the projectiles, then advance a little bit at a time. Gotta be honest, I was actually trying to save the TNT barrel for the next part, but that didn't work out, so I burrowed past the enemies down there instead. I thought about banking more bone stones, but I'm gonna save for another level of attack before the boss. I will freely admit that I mistimed this jump, and I just got pretty lucky here. Now, at this point, I decided I was close enough to an attack level that I would just respawn the fish a few times and get it over with. The boss is coming up next, and the extra damage would be nice. You can skip ahead about a minute and a half if you don't care to see the grind. Okay, now let's go take out that boss. Just like the other bosses so far, you can get some free damage right when Knox's beast spawns. After that, here are the attacks you'll see, and in order. First, he spends a lot of his time just jumping towards you. He's big though, so be careful about the hitbox, especially if you're above him. Next, you'll see him spitting bubbles into the air. Watch for the shadows on the floor and move out of the way. They'll despawn on their own after a while, so you don't have to destroy them. Speaking of the bubbles despawning, for his next attack he's going to try sucking you into the giant mouth at the bottom. Use burrow to move quickly away, and if you're feeling bold, you can sneak in an attack or two before burrowing again. Next, you'll see him dive underwater. Much like in the zone before it, he can try to resurface under you to bite you, so just sidestep when this happens. He can otherwise pop up and start swimming around, in which case you'll want to move in fairly tight circles around him, since that'll make it hard for him to chase you. He can also charge at you when he's swimming, and he'll bounce in the opposite direction whenever he hits a wall. So try your best to make him move straight up and down or straight left and right, because then you can just hit him whenever he passes. When he gets back to the surface, you'll also see him throwing flame jars like the fish enemies do in the previous zone, but you should know exactly how to dodge that. And lastly, he can try to punch you, which will send shockwaves to his sides. This means, of course, that being directly above or below him will keep you relatively safe. If I need to use sidearms later, they should probably do decent damage, and the level is still pretty cheap, so I took one here. This generator was deceptively difficult to do without being hit, mostly because Thorn will be charging at you from time to time. Whenever you see him shaking, move back down a little bit until he passes by. After that, you just have to be careful about all the vines that appear in the second half of the climb. You should have plenty of time, so destroy them when you see them and advance little by little. At this point, I'm just going to make my way to the beginning of the swamp so I can set myself up to travel to Kindlewood in the next video. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe before you go. I never liked making these pitches, but this is how YouTube works, and I'd like to keep making content for it, so I hope you'll do me that favor. Regardless, thank you very much for watching, and I hope I'll see you again for the next one.